Let's look at limits approaching a very large number, not a specific number. It tends to get larger and larger and larger. And similarly, we'll look at some combinations of this. Remember our function 1 by x. Now let's take some values. So let's say x and f of x. Let's say we have 1, and let's keep it simple and say 1 by 10, minus 1 by 10, minus 1 by 100, 1 by, right? So which will be minus 0.1 by 10, minus 0.01, minus 0.001, minus, yes. Similarly on this side, what will happen? It will become 10, become 100, 1000. Okay, so what will be the value of x when x is 1? When x is 1, 1 by 1 is 1, perfectly fine. When x is 10, this becomes 1 by 10 is 0.1, 1 by 100 is 0.01, 0.001, 0.00001. Okay, here what will happen? Negative side. 1 by 0.1 is what? 1 by 0.1 is nothing but 1 by 10 to the power of minus 1, which is nothing but 10. So this becomes 10. If it is 0.01, it becomes 2. So which means this is 100. So 100, 1000, 10,000. So do you notice what is happening? As the x becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, f of x becomes larger and larger and larger. As x becomes larger and larger and larger, f of x becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Let's look at the graph of this. So when you look at the graph of this, what happens? When x gets smaller and smaller and smaller, what happens? As x gets smaller and smaller and smaller, f of x gets smaller, gets closer and closer to 0. But it actually never becomes 0. Similarly, as x gets larger and larger and larger, f of x becomes closer and closer to 0. Similarly, as x gets closer and closer to 0 from the right hand side, f of x becomes larger and larger and larger. Similarly, from the left hand side, as x gets closer and closer and closer to 0, f of x becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So let's look at how we define some of the limits for this. So limit of 1 by x as x approaches negative infinity. That means it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So remember, it gets closer and closer and closer to 0. Limit as x approaches positive infinity. 1 by x becomes again 0. So remember, the graph is like this. It goes like this and it goes like this. Not like a rectangle kind of thing, but get the idea. Right? So as it goes smaller and smaller and smaller, f of x becomes closer and closer to 0. Similarly, as it gets larger and larger, y gets closer and closer to 0. Okay, so limit as x approaches 0, 1 by x, what happens? If it approaches from the positive side, that means from this side, then what happens? It gets larger and larger and larger. So it goes towards infinity. Now x, if it approaches 0 from the negative side, then what happens? It gets closer and it becomes smaller and smaller. F of x becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So it goes towards minus infinity, which is exactly what with the numbers also you can see. At 0 itself, there is nothing defined. We can just say that it gets closer and closer to 0. Okay, so this 1 by x thing, you remember, is not specific to 1 by x itself. It could be in the denominator, it could be anything. Say for example, it could be x square. Yes, what is the difference between 1 by x and 1 by x square? Let's see. 1 by x square. What happens? The only difference is that since there can't be, x square will remove all the negative signs. The fourth quadrant graph will come into, second quadrant. That's the only difference. This is the 1 by x square. Green is 1 by x. It gets flipped basically, the negative side. Okay. What happens if it is 1 by x cube? Right, let's say 1 by x cube. Let's delete this now and let's put 1 by x cube. It becomes sharper, right? It goes a little bit away from the y-axis, but the behavior remains the same. It gets closer and closer to 0 much more slowly, that's all, but it still gets closer and closer to 0 as x goes towards infinity or minus infinity, and it gets closer and closer to, or it approaches infinity as x approaches 0, minus and positive infinity. It could be something, it doesn't really matter what is there. So x cube plus 1, yes, the graphing may change, the overall behavior remains the same. So here there is a kink now because of this plus 1. Here it looks as if it has become equal to 0. No, if you get closer and closer, see, okay, now let's do some problems with this. How this helps in limits, we will see. Let's limit as n approaches infinity of 4n square minus 7n plus 8 by 3n square plus 5n minus 8. Now let's simplify this. I'll tell you a shortcut way and a proper way. Right? Shortcut way, you can use it for verification. So here let's take out n square. Okay, if we take out n square, what happens? This becomes 4. This becomes what? 7 by n plus 8 by n square. Yes. Similarly here, take out n square. We end up with 3 plus 5 by n minus 8 by n square. Okay. Now let's actually substitute it. What happens? N square is cancelled. So 4 remains as it is. Now 7 by infinity is what? Actually, we should not read it like that. We should say as n goes towards infinity, what happens to 7 by n? It is as good as saying 1 by x, right? In front of infinity, that 7 has no significance. So 7 by n gives you what? 0. Similarly, 0. 3 plus 0 minus 0. So which is 4 by 3. Look at the shortcut way. In front of a very large number, take a large number, 1 billion. In front of a billion, 8 has no meaning. So cut it off. In front of a billion square, a billion has no significance, right? So this also goes off. So we are left with 4n square by 3n square. These two get cut off, we are left with 4 by 3, right? Be careful, only if it makes sense to you, you should think in this way. This makes verifying your answer very easy, because you might have made a arithmetic mistake somewhere in the middle. Okay, let's take another one. Limit as x approaches infinity of x plus 1 3x plus 4 by x square by x minus 8. Okay, so here what do? We can use the same procedure. Take out x, because we want to be able to cancel this x square. So take out x, so we are left with 1 plus 1 by x. Take out another x from here also, becomes 3 plus 4 by x divided by x square times x minus 8. Now let's actually do the substitution. Let's not do the substitution first. Let's do the cancellations. So x and x gets cancelled with the x square. So now we can do the substitution. 1 plus 1 by infinity becomes what? Remember, 0. 3 plus 4 by infinity what? 0. Here also x by x minus 8. Also we could have done the same procedure, taken out x. So if we take out x, this becomes 1 minus 8 by x. So this becomes, can take it out as a separate thing, 1 by x, and this becomes 1 minus 0. So this becomes 3. 1 minus 0 is 1. But this 1 by infinity, 1 by x, this becomes 0 as x approaches infinity. So this becomes 0. 0 into 3 is 0. The moment you see in the denominator x, understand that the top portion, whatever it is, doesn't matter, it will become 0 after cancellations. Okay, let's do one more. Limit as x approaches infinity, 1 plus 2n to the power of 5 divided by square root of 1 plus 27n square times 4n minus 1, 4. Remember, this square root can be written, okay, 1 place n or 1 place x, so it should be n. This is n. So here what we do? Here n to the power of 5, when we expand it, n to the power of 5 will come, isn't it? So n to the power of 5, we take it out. So when we take it out, what happens is, here we have 1 by n plus n we have taken out, remember. So n to the power of 5 we have taken it out. So here 2, 5. Here what do we have? Let's take out n square out. If we take out n square, because of the square root, it becomes n. Inside the square root, what happens? It becomes 1 by n square. If we bring the n inside, it becomes n square by n square, so it gets cancelled and becomes 1, which is what we start off with. Okay, then plus 27. Okay, similarly we take out n4 from 4n minus 1 to the power of 4. So what happens? This becomes 4 minus 1 by n to the power of 4. So limit as n approaches infinity becomes what? n to the power of 4. This becomes n to the power of 5, n to the power of 5. This gets cancelled. So we are left with 1 by n plus 2 to the power of 5 by square root of 1 by n square plus 27 times 4 minus 1 by n to the power of 4. Now let's do the substitution. 1 by n is 0 plus 2 to the power of 5 square root of this is 0 plus 27 times 4 minus 0 to the power of 4. This becomes 2 to the power of 5 by square root of 27 times 4 to the power of 4. Or what we can do is we can say 2 to the power of 8. So 2 to the power of 8, this and 5 of this gets cancelled. So which means we are left with 3 of this. So which is equal to 1 by 27 is 3 root 3 times 8, which is 1 by 24 root 3. So 1 by 24 root 3 is limit. Okay, one final one. Now let's do a few more. I'm really enjoying it. Do limit as n approaches infinity 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus dot n by n plus 2 2n plus 3. Now again you have to remember the various identities, right? So limit as n approaches infinity. What is the formula for this? Sum of first and natural numbers is n into n plus 1 by 2, yes, multiplied by n plus 2 2n plus 3. Okay, so limit as n approaches infinity. Now here what do we do? N times, let's take out n, 1 plus 1 by n. I think now you are getting the hang of it. Just make sure that this n becomes, basically disappears from one of the terms. So here let's take out 1 n. So 1 plus 2 by n. Again let's take out n here. So we are left with 2 plus 3 by n. So now let's do the substitution. What happens? N gets cancelled, n gets cancelled. So 1 plus 0 it becomes 2 times 1 plus 0. Let's do it step by step. 1 plus 0 and 2 plus 0, which becomes 1 by 4. So let's say limit as n approaches infinity 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square n square by 2n cube plus 3n square plus 4n plus 1. Now you need to remember the formula for the sum of squares. So the formula is n into n plus 1 2n plus 1 by 6. Okay, and this becomes 2n cube plus 3n square plus 4n. Let's just carry it. Now limit as n approaches infinity. What happens here? Let's take out one n here. So it becomes 1 plus 1 by n. Again let's take out one more n. So it becomes 2 plus 1 by n divided by 6 times. Let's take out n cube. So we are left with 2 plus 3 by n plus 3 cube. Okay, 4 by n square and plus 1 by n. Now what happens? N, 3 and this gets cancelled. So now we can directly do the substitution. So 1 plus 0, 2 plus 0 divided by 6 times 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, which is 2 by 6 times 2, which is 1 by 6. So limit is 1 by 6. I think you got the idea. Enough for today. Bye for now. Please go to the about page of my channel, and here you will find various links for each topic. These are Excel workbooks which I have been using in many of my videos. Download it and practice.